Yeah. So starting from page 53 today, the secret knowledge. I'll just color it and then, yeah, maybe Josna ji, you can start and start with these lines.
Too seldom is the shadow of what must come, cast in an instant on the secret sense, which feels the shock of the invisible, and seldom in the few who answer give. The mighty process of the cosmic will communicates its image to our sight, identifying the world's mind with ours.
Yeah. Too seldom is the shadow of what must come. So very rarely are we sensitive enough, are we open enough, where we get a sense of what is going to happen, what must come. Too seldom, very rarely are we open to that. Although we have all the possibilities of being open and receptive and sensitive to this knowledge of foreseeing the events before they happen, but we are not there. We are just lost in our own surface consciousness. So too seldom is the shadow of what must come cast in an instant on the secret sense. So this secret sense that we have, this intuitive sense that we have, which has a knowing that maybe I need to be cautious here, or maybe I need to stop here, pause here. Very rarely we are open to receive these intimations. Our secret sense is open to that intimation, and we receive it, which feels the shock of the invisible. So, as if before any event is going to happen, I get an intimation and knowing that here I have to be careful. And on this, there is a anecdote by the mother that she was just going with a group of people on a mountain, and it was a very kind of a risky terrain. On one side is the wall of the mountain, and on the other side is very steep fall below. And there, she just had a knowing that uh, there is something, maybe some danger ahead. And she stopped all the people, and there was a snake there. So there are other instances of mother also. I'm sure some of us may be aware of those instances. So very many times one may be open to that sensitivity or this secret sense where we receive intimations about what must happen or what is to happen. Yeah. And that's why then whatever happens does not appear like a shock to us, because we already have a knowing. Usually the surface life that we live, mostly we are just taken by a shock. Oh my god, how did this happen? But all the preparations were already being done in the subtle realms of that happening, just that we were not aware. We were just stuck in the limited narrow outer consciousness. So this secret sense, yes, Ravi, do you want to share something?
No, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So this secret sense feels the shock of the invisible. That which has not yet happened is to happen, yet I feel the presence of it approaching. And seldom in the few who answer give. So first of all, it's very seldom that we are open enough to receive intimations. Secondly, even if I receive an intimation of what is to happen, I may not be able to follow it. I may actually ignore it like a figment of my imagination, because the voice is not a loud voice. It's a very muffled demon voice, as we read earlier. The guiding voice is very muffled. So I may not be able to really respond to that intuitive sense. And that's what this line, and seldom in the few who answer give. So those who are able to respond to this knowing or this perception that they have, the mighty process of the cosmic will communicates its image to our sight. So in those of us, at those rare moments when I'm open to the sixth sense or the sense of intuition. I receive an intimation of something to happen and I follow that guidance. Then the mighty process of the cosmic will communicates its image to our sight. So that vision is communicated as if I am guided to follow a certain path, identifying the world's mind with ours. So the world, so there is this limited surface mind that we have, and this limited mind is connected to the world mind also. But owing to the veil of ignorance, it's only very little that is available to us. So, but in these moments of intuition, in those moments of rare, widened perception, my mind gets united with the world's mind. So I have a larger view. I get a whole widened and expanded view of what I am usually not capable of in my limited consciousness. So anything on these lines, anyone? Anything to share? Okay, so in absence of anything, please, anyone, so people who have joined later may read. Swapna and Mohanji have joined later. So whoever feels ready, please read the lines in blue.
Our range is fixed within the crowded arc of what we observe and touch and thought can guess, and rarely dawns the light of the unknown, walking in us with prophet and the seer.
Yeah, thank you, Mohanji. So how our limited mind, our surface mind is a very limited, like instrument that is available to us. So imagine that you have maybe you have a magnifying glass, and with that magnifying glass, you look at a little insect, right? So that will tell something. Then you have a microscope. So you go deeper and study that insect, and what was not visible earlier becomes visible with that microscope. Then we have a electron microscope, which goes even deeper, and which studies in really tiny bits and details that insect, that the same insect that we first studied with the magnifying glass, then studied with a microscope, and then with an electron microscope. So the insect is more than what I can see and perceive. It's just that the instruments of perception that I have, the mind, the vital, that such touch, taste, feeling, everything, it is so limited that it does not make me available to the whole expanse of what that little insect may be. Yeah. So just like that, our limited outer range is fixed, within the crowded arc. So this is a very limited range that is available to us of what we observe and touch and thought and guess. And whatever I see with my physical senses, maybe I'm listening to someone, maybe I'm interpreting with my own mind, maybe I'm looking at something, maybe I'm touching, feeling, sensing, all this, what we observe, what we touch, what we think, it's all actually a guess. It's a very limited knowing that we have of what we observe and touch and thought can guess, and rarely dawns the light of the unknown. Very rarely the light of the unknown dawns, and makes me something more than my senses, takes me beyond the perception of my senses. So I go beyond being an electron microscope. I'm not limited to being an electron microscope. And in that, I see something more, something which is not available to the physical sense perceptions. Yeah. So that is where we are caged. Our human being is caged, and there is nothing to be ashamed about it, because many a times the mind just constantly judges. So it's just the process of life. That's how we were made, and now one has to just travel forward. So the mind is caged in these sense perceptions. The senses show very, very little. It's a crowded arc. And then slowly, when something grace, what we call, the light of the unknown, the divine grace dawns very rarely, it wakes in us the prophet and the seer. Something in us is able to have the larger view, the wide view, the expansive view. Yeah. So please keep sharing if you have anything in between. Please share your reflections. Yeah, anyone who wants to share next or read next? Okay, so Swapna is not able to read. So Jyotsna ji and Ravi ji, please.
The outward and the immediate are our field. The dead past is our background and support. Mind keeps the soul prisoner. We are slaves to our. We cannot free our gaze to reach wisdom's sun.
Yeah, thank you. So this is how we are trapped, in the outward, whatever is external, and also consider the body also external. Our body, our emotions, feelings, they're all external. We think that this is me and rest all is external. We think of our body as mine and rest all is external. No, our body is also external. So this outward and the immediate, whatever the immediate needs of me and my body and my senses, the outward and the immediate are our field. That's where we are trapped. This is where I belong, as if. The dead past is our background and support. So a past which was so important when it was the present. We remember our old moments, and in the present, something appears like so crucial, but when it becomes the past, it is just a dead past. And again, this present moment will also become past. And yet we suffer and really are swayed by our vital and desires and ambitions and all that we run after. So this dead past that we have left behind, of which we don't really find any trace apart from in our thoughts, this dead past is the background. So this is me and my story. This is my background and support. I base myself on that. Mind keeps the soul prisoner. This is a beautiful, I really found it very almost like a startling line. Mind keeps the soul prisoner. And Kabirji in his own couplets has also shared many, many times. For example, in one he says, Hirde mahi arsi or mukh dekha nahi jaye. Mukh to tabhi dekhiye jab dil ki dubida jaye. So he says your true nature will be reflected in your heart. The mirror is in your heart, but you cannot see. How would you see your own face if this veil of ignorance, this clouding and fogging by the thoughts, dil ki duvidha, what all that troubles us, our desires, our expectations, it troubles us, our thoughts, a web of thoughts that we are lost in. So that creates a veil so that I can't really know my truth. I'm just away from it, from a veil that is created. So this mind, the forest of mind, as said by Kabir, it's a forest where we get entangled again and again, entangled again and again. And that too has its own purpose in the larger realm, in the larger view of things. That too also has its own purpose. As I had shared in the WhatsApp group today, those lines where he says that even the sins of man, the errors or mistakes of man, they are nothing but Lord's steps on the way. So through our sins and errors and follies and mistakes, the yoga is continuing, because there is only one destination, which is the divine. There cannot be any other destination. So through our mistakes, so-called failures, so-called errors, the yoga is happening. Yeah. It's a very relaxing situation, actually, that the yoga is happening. One can collaborate, do it actively, But even with the errors and follies, it is happening. And errors and follies we will make. We cannot be not making errors and follies. But we don't have to be ashamed about them. They are just his steps on the way. So mind keeps the soul prisoner. Whenever we are trapped in the stories of the mind, we are away from the touch of the soul, the deep knowing that we have. We are slaves to our acts. We are slaves to our thoughts. Whatever thoughts may impel me, compel me to do, I do that. Whatever desires may compel me to do, I do that. Yeah, whatever my likings, preferences may want me to do, I do that. We are slaves to our acts, but that is not in a shaming or blaming sense. That's how the process is. And yet the supreme diplomat makes the use of it. We cannot free our gaze to reach wisdom's sun. So since we are trapped in the stories of the mind, and each one of us has their own stories, you may have something different, I may have something different that keeps me occupied. So each one of us has been given their share to be occupied with, as if these are our soft spots on which we have to work. So these stories keep the soul prisoner, and hence we cannot free ourselves. We cage ourselves. So we cannot free our gaze, our vision to reach the wisdom's sun. And this sun was within the being. It is within our being, which from time to time emerges out with its rays of wisdom, which we also encountered earlier, in the lines that we were reading. Emergency here. I'll just read it out. Yeah. So this sun is, they are born from the spirit sun of hidden powers, digging a tunnel through emergency. So that sun is hidden within, and time to time it just digs a tunnel and comes out and rise up to the surface. Yeah. So please keep sharing if you have reflections on these lines, anyone. Otherwise, we'll just keep on moving forward. Yeah. So anyone who feels ready could
May I
read
read,
this.
madam?
Yes, Mohanji. Yeah.
Yes, I'll go.
Yeah. Inheritor.
Inheritor of the brief animal mind, man still a child in nature's mighty hands. In the succession of the moments, lives or lives, to a changing present is his narrow right. His memory stares back at a phantom past. The future flees before him as he moves. He sees imagined garments, not a face. Okay, madam.
Yeah. Thank you. Inheritor of the brief animal mind. Man still a child in nature's mighty hands. So although we may consider ourselves really mighty, and we may consider ourselves as the king of earth, the ruling species, we are still having the animal mind. We are still having the traces to a large extent of the animal mind. So for example, how we developed from a stone to plant to insect and then to thinking, maybe ape, Neanderthal. So our animal mind has not been truly shed. It's still there. Inheritor of the brief animal mind, man still a child in nature's mighty hands. So imagine nature, as the mother, our mother nature, and man is a child in mighty nature's mighty hands. And we really have, in our own arrogance, we consider ourselves really too big than the nature, and that does a lot of harm to us also, because in that we kill our soul almost. We really do torture on our soul when we do not embrace that nature is our mother and we are nothing but a child. Man still a child in nature's mighty hands, in the succession of the moments' lives, to a changing present is his narrow right. So all that we live, our lifestyle is that from moment to moment, succession of moments' lives. Now I need food, now I need this, now maybe somebody else in my home needs this. From moment to moment, we go ahead. Succession of moments. To a changing present is his narrow right. So all that I have access to is a changing present. So although I go from moment to moment, and yet it's such a fleeting moment, it's like really wavy, like every moment, anything can happen any moment. So even that present that I am available to, it's a very movable present. There is nothing certain there. No ground is certain. Anything, any moment, anything it can happen. And that's my only right, narrow right, the way I live. To a changing present is his narrow right. His memory stares back at a phantom past. The future flees before him as he moves. So, all of us would, I would say, resonate with this memory. Our memories keep on going back to this phantom past. Phantom is used in, I think Jyotsna ji would know, in medical terminology also. For example, if I have lost my hand, yeah, and although my hand is missing now, my right hand may be missing now, but to the mind, to the inner mind, it appears, it behaves as if there is the hand there. And there is also a word called phantom pain. So I feel pain in that part of the being, which is actually missing now physically. Yeah, Josna ji, have you heard about this? The phantom pain? Yeah.
Called phantom limb, a phantom thought, a phantom pain. It's all that you imagine as being existent, but which is actually a phantom in your mind. I mean, you think it exists, you make it into a reality, whereas in reality, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Really amazing. So just like that, our memory keeps on staring at a phantom past. It's not present right now, but somewhere I have a feeling that it is. And it gives me pain. I feel that pain. I go through that suffering, staring back again and again at that phantom past. I think this is something the whole human population would resonate with, where we go back again and again. It calls us as if the phantom past. So first of all, the memory stares back at a phantom past, that which is not really existent right now, but maybe was, I don't know. The future flees before him as he moves. So the moment I go ahead to touch the future, it becomes present. It becomes the present moment. So I can actually never be in future. The future will always be away from me. And in one of the prayers and meditations, when I was reading these lines, it just came to me, Mother calls, refers to the divine, that you are that which escapes me the more I go forward to you. And just like that, perfection also is something, the more we go closer to perfection, it escapes us. Like one can do better and better and better. And just like that, the divine, and just like that, the future. The future flees before him as he moves. He sees imagined garments, not a face. And whatever I can perceive, whatever we can really sense, perceive, or maybe think about it in my own imagination or thought, it's just imagined garment. So as if I'm looking at something and I really am not able to perceive what that is. So whatever I see, I make my own assumption about it. It's not something absolute that I really grasp. Yeah. So I make, for example, we meet a person, okay, and we make an assumption about that person based on the conversation we had. Yeah. Maybe I have a relationship. And I form an assumption about that relationship or assumption about the people involved in the relationship, just because that is what I can do. In ignorance, that is what I can do. So I see imagined garments. So I do not see the truth, face of truth. I do not see the true face of truth. I always see garments, first of all, the outer appearance, and that too an imaginary garment. It's just my own assumption by limited sense purview, which I am able to have in my mind, trying to make a guess maybe. And that too, I'm never sure of that it's true. So we are always away from the absolute truth. I'm always in my assumptions or guesses. I can never be sure about it. Yeah. So anything anyone wants to share here? Yeah. Yes,
Armed,
Josna ji.
armed with a limited, precarious strength, he saves his fruits of work from adverse chance. A struggling ignorance is his wisdom's mate. He waits to see the consequence of his acts. He waits to weigh the certitude of his thoughts. He knows not what he shall achieve or when. He knows not whether at last he shall survive or end like the mastodon and the sloth and perish from the earth where he was king.
Yes, thank you. Armed with a limited, precarious strength. So all that we have access to is our very limited, and that too precarious strength. It's like very uncertain. At times, the overwhelm of the situations may become so heavy that I may lose that limited strength. I may really fall weak on my knees. I may lose all the strength. So I'm armed as a human being, I'm armed with a very limited, precarious strength. One cannot really base ourselves on that strength. It's a very uncertain strength. It can give up anytime. He saves his fruits of work from adverse chance. So, with that limited strength, whatever I create in my life, whatever I am able to manifest in my life, as if I have to save it from something adverse that may happen, as if it's my precious belonging, that with so much of struggle, with so much of courage, I've been able to make this out of my life, and let me just keep it safe from any adverse happening. He saves his fruits of work from adverse chance. A struggling ignorance is his wisdom's mate. Struggling ignorance, beautiful word again. So with this possibility of discernment, discriminating mind that we have, no matter how much intelligent at times we may behave, it is a struggling ignorance. So as if we are born in ignorance, and through limited sense perception and interpretation, as if I'm struggling to have a little wisdom in my life. So what is my mate, wisdom's mate? Struggling ignorance. Something which is trying to make sense of things, trying to make guesses with whatever little information I have about my life, about others, about the world. Just trying to make hit and trial, maybe. Okay, let me see if this works. Let me see if this works. Not really having the wide, larger vision, divine vision. A struggling ignorance is his wisdom's mate. He waits to see the consequence of his acts. So whenever I am having a very limited perception, consciousness, I know that whatever I am doing, I'm not really certain of it. Yeah. So what do? I make the attempt, and then I wait for the consequence. Okay, let me see how good was my guess. Yeah. Let me see how good was my imagination or intuitive sense, whatever. Yeah. So we have to wait so that we see the result of our act, and then we can say, okay, this worked, this did not work. A struggling ignorance is his wisdom's mate. He waits to see the consequence of his acts. He waits to weigh the certitude of his thoughts. Again, that maybe I had a thought and I acted according to that thought. Now I will have to wait for a manifestation to happen, for the effect of that thought, so that I understand whether that thought really led me to a greater good or not. Yeah? Because when I'm acting according to that impulse or thought, then I'm not really aware whether it is going to do good or bad to people or myself. Yeah. So we have to wait, because the instrument that is there is struggling ignorance, half-lit mind. So we have to wait so that we can weigh the certitude of the thoughts. He knows not what he shall achieve or when. So even our goals, whether they are spiritual goals or physical material goals, we really are not sure about them. It's highly uncertain. Yeah, I'm not sure whether I'll achieve this, maybe in this lifetime, another lifetime, or maybe not at all. Am I really, will I be able to follow this path? He knows not what he shall achieve or when. There is no certainty. Yeah? He knows not whether at last he shall survive. The continuity of human as species. Just like dinosaurs got extinct, just like other prehistoric mammals, animals got extinct. Would this happen to us also? No idea. We have no idea whether we'll be wiped out as a human race and another new race will arrive, or we'll continue and transform as we are right now. He knows not whether at last he shall survive or end like the mastodon and the sloth, prehistoric mammals. Huge creatures. Now they have no sign left as if they existed on Earth, only maybe some traces, fossils. So would that happen with the human species also? Like just totally wiped out from nature, from Earth? He knows not whether at last he shall survive or end like the mastodon and the sloth and perish from the earth where he was the king. Marvelous, again, beautiful lines. And just also opens us to the magnanimity of creation, the magnanimity of universe, and how thin a dot, how minute a dot we are, even whole of earth, just minute dot in the whole of the universe. What would happen? And perish from the earth where he was the king. So right now we may think that we are ruling the earth. The whole of earth is just populated and populated by human beings. And even now other planets also people are considering. What will happen? We'll just perish, become extinct, or God knows what. So although we may appear very sure in our experiments, in our science, in all of what we do, yet there is a very uncertain fate that we have, which we have right now. Yeah, I'll just go on, and those of us who want to share anything, please unmute and share. It's a little long. Yeah, I think we'll end here. Yes, Jyotsna ji?
I think split it.
Split it, yeah, better. It's a bit
We'll
long.
meet and then can see the idea after
Okay,
that.
okay, it's split it.
Otherwise, the thoughts will just go.
Yeah, true. Great. So we'll do until here, and then I think this is the last paragraph we take for today. Yeah, anyone who feels ready? The lines in blue.
Yeah, he's ignorant of the meaning of his life. He's ignorant of his high and splendid fate. Only the immortals on their deathless heights, dwelling beyond the walls of time and space, masters of living free from the bonds of thought, who are overseers of fate and chance and will, and experts of the theorem of world need.
Yes, thank you, Raviji. He is ignorant of the meaning of his life. No matter how much we have done, how many planets we may have traveled to, we are ignorant. As a human being, we are ignorant of the meaning, true meaning of life. It's only hints and guesses that we make about it. He's ignorant of the meaning of his life. I think this is really sounds almost like an irony. The previous line says, the earth where he was the king. And imagine a king who is ignorant of the meaning of his existence. He's ignorant of the meaning of his life. He's ignorant of his high and splendid fate. So we don't know what is possible for us, what we are born for. What are the, I think Mother and Sri Aurobindo have detailed it so nicely and like so vastly also, what all is possible. But right now where we are, whatever they have shown us, it appears like a higher possibility. One can move towards it. I think that itself is enough. But again and again, where we find ourselves in the traps of lower consciousness, we see that the road is really long and arduous. It's not a easy game that we are on. He's ignorant of his high and splendid fate, but that is our fate. No matter what, that is our fate. Either we are wiped out or a new species comes, or we ourselves as a race go ahead and transform. Yeah. But the life divine will be possible. Sri Aurobindo has clearly shown the gate that, demarked, like given us a map of all that, which is possible. But we are ignorant of that and we remain trapped in the ordinary. Although nothing is ordinary, everything is there for a reason. And yet there is also a possibility of conscious collaboration. Only the immortals on their deathless heights, dwelling beyond the walls of time and space. So when I was reading these lines, I don't know how there are beings who are immortal beings who take care of earth, and give their guidance from time to time to masters, mystics. One of them being Mahavatar Babaji. I don't know, maybe some of you may have heard about him. So they say that he's a sage who is now 5,000 years old and he can take up any body, he can show up anytime, and he's basically immortal. And when we read in scriptures, we see Markandeya, Markandeya Rishi also became immortal, that he would always remain and he would be able to take any form, any shape. So there are beings, higher beings, who are guiding our movements, who are guiding the earth, who are taking care of the mankind. Only the immortals on their deathless heights, now they have moved into immortality. Yeah, they remain immortal now, beyond the clutches of death, dwelling beyond the walls of time and space. So we as a mortal human being, we live clutched in, caged in the time and space, as long as the body is, I am. After that, maybe I'm consciousness, but and consciousness is immortal, but one cannot say that this is deathlessness. Yeah, deathlessness is something different, where mother also has shared that deathlessness is also referring to the body being deathless, even the cells having the surety that they are deathless. Yeah. So there are immortals, only those immortals on their deathless heights, dwelling beyond the walls of time and space. They are not caged in time or a body or space. Masters of living, beautiful, masters of living, free from the bonds of thought. So again, an indicator of what really binds us, and easier said than done, because at times we may have experiences of freedom from thought, And yet again, it comes back and strangulates us. Just like we read earlier here, the mind here, the mind keeps the soul prisoner. And here he says again, free from the bonds of thought. So it seems that the cage is of this mental vital construct that we have as an instrument. And that's our journey as a human being, how to live using those instruments, yet beyond the cage of those instruments, knowing ourselves something more than those instruments of the mind and of the thought and the vital and also the physical. So these immortals are masters of living, free from the bonds of thought. They are overseers of fate, chance, and will. So as if they have this larger view, supervising, they're as if they are keeping an eye on these events of fate, chance, and will. A supervisor or overseer is somebody who looks after a certain group of people who are working. Yeah, so he keeps an eye on them and he has a larger view of whatever the workings are in that group. So these immortal beings stationed in their deathless heights beyond the clutches of time and space, they are master of living. They have mastered, Sri Aurobindo Mother talk about self-mastery. They have mastered living, free from the bonds of thought, who are overseers of fate and chance and will, and experts of the theorem of world need. So since they have this larger view, yeah, so they can see what is the need of collective human consciousness right now. And then according to that, they can make kind of things move. Since having this higher connection direct with the divine truth, they can make things move. Although when they make things move, it may appear to us as a bolt, or a jolt or a shock, but that's their way of moving things around. Since without shock, we cannot move from inertia. We need a jolt or a poke so that we move from inertia. In farms and people who have bullock carts and everything, if they have to move the animal, they poke him with the stick. So somehow that poking or jolting is needed. That's how we are. And these people or beings, immortals, they have a knowing what the world needs. They have a theorem. They are experts of the theorem of world need. Exactly know what is the collective human consciousness maybe needs now. And then we come forward, that how they execute the plan. Yeah, so anyone who feels ready could read the last paragraph, please.
May I read, madam? Can see the idea, the might that change time's course. Come, man, with light from undiscovered worlds. Here, while the world toils on the deep, blind heart, the galloping hoofs of the unseen event, bearing the superhuman rider near and impassive to earth's din and startled cry, return to the silence of the hills of God. As lightning leaps, as thunder sweeps, they pass and leave their mark on the trampled breast of life. Thank you, madam.
Yeah, thank you, Mohanji. So these immortals can see the idea, the might that change time's course. Since they have a knowing of what the world needs at the moment, they can see the truth idea I in capital, a great idea full of truth consciousness, the might, the power that change time's course. They can see it coming. They can see, okay, now what is the need? According to that, a great idea, illumining idea comes with a lot of force, power, which changes time's course. They can see the idea, the might that can change time's course, come maned with light of from undiscovered worlds. So as if this idea is coming on, maybe sitting on a horse from the lands of truth consciousness, helping humanity or helping the mortal realm, come maned, as if it's a glow. Mane is this what a lion has, around him, the hair. So that idea, when it comes, it is aglow with that light. It is full of radiance of this light of undiscovered worlds. Here, while the world toils on with its deep blind heart. So they are able to hear the idea when it is galloping, it's coming forward to mortal consciousness. They can hear, while we as mortals, we in our limited surface perception, we are just lost in our own little stuff. The world toils on with its deep blind heart. Deep blind heart. And we are toiling, we are struggling, while the immortals hear the idea coming, full of radiance of truth from the undiscovered worlds. They hear the galloping. So the first line says, here while the world toils, and then it continues, here the galloping hooves of the unforeseen event. Something which is to come collectively to human consciousness, which is to change the course of our events, change time's course. And they are able to foresee this galloping. They are able to see the idea coming. For us, it appears more like an accident or a shock, but they are able to foresee before it really makes itself manifest on the mortal realm. They hear the galloping hooves of the unforeseen event, bearing the superhuman rider near. So this, as if this idea is coming in on this horse, full of, and the horse is a significance of, Sri Aurobindo is used galloping hooves. So referring to this power and might of horse, how much power that idea can have to change the time's course. Superhuman rider near, and impassive to earth's din and startled cry, return to the silence of the hills of God. So this beautiful unforeseen event comes forward, this mighty event comes forward, full of this idea about changing the time's course. It touches human consciousness, it touches the earthly realm, it does its work, and maybe the work is through destruction, maybe the work is through maybe some greater demolition, who knows, the ways of the divine. And there we are lost in our little world, impassive to earth's din and startled cry. So I am startled, oh my God, how did this happen? It was all right a few moments before, but now suddenly everything is changed. So for me, I may appear startled. I'm crying because I'm waiting for the past to reappear again, how I was before. But the idea, the mighty unforeseen event has already touched the mortal realm so that it can change the course of events. And it has already returned to the silence of the hills of God, just like lightning. Return to the silence of hills of God, as lightning leaps, as thunder sweeps, they pass. So it has touched the mortal realm, it has touched human consciousness, done its job, this unforeseen or foreseen event, while we were toiling in our own stuff. Yeah. And then it goes back silently to the hills of God, from where it came, the truth consciousness. It goes back as lightning leaves, and how lightning just comes for a second and goes back. Just like that, it just is very powerful, mighty, and also very sudden. It's a sudden event. As lightning leaves, as thunder sweeps, they pass and leave their mark on the trampled breast of life. Now, whatever reconstruction may be required, whatever change of ideology may be required, whatever lifestyle changes may be required, that will take its own due time. But they had left their mark. Just like we look at this global event that has been bothering us for the past 2 years, and some of us have made good use of it. Some of us may not be able to make good use of it, but it has left its imprint, leave their mark on the trampled breast of life. And now, whatever changes we need to do as a collective human consciousness, as an individual human being, they will be done after the marks are left. The great event is touched and gone back, changing collective human consciousness. And I think this coronavirus, for example, also, it has taken away lots of lives, taken away many things. It has given also, I think it has given a lot of insight, intuition, I would say wisdom, and a possibility that maybe we should actually do something about the way we live, the way we think, the way we run our lives. Yeah, so I think I'll stop there. And yeah, if people have, if you have anyone who wants to share anything, any reflection, please share.
What I understood in this a little more was that, and impassive to Earth's din and startle climbing, the Earth actually cries out
Yeah.
with whatever, with pain or with hurt or with harm.
Yeah.
And they are impassive, these
Mm.
faithless souls, means they couldn't be bothered less. They have no
Yeah.
emotion at all. They're totally wooden, and they just return back to their location. And as lightning leaps and thunder sweeps, they leave their mark, and our lives remain in chaos, and they are gone.
Mm.
That was quite
Mm.
stunning.
Mm.
So that is exactly what happens with us.
Yeah. And I think going through this chaos is very important, I believe, because somehow we get so settled in our own lives that we rarely want to change. And when this something sudden comes, something really overpowering comes, it may be chaotic, it is often chaotic. And then we just have to find a way through. Yeah, maybe
If you
towards a
speak
deeper
to
harmony.
elders about this present COVID crisis and things, what they always tell us and bring to our notice is they are not fazed by it. They say it's the Almighty's way of eliminating the extra population. You've
Mm.
got to see that in 1820 a similar thing happened in like that. They will tell you
Mm.
in and 100 years ago the same happened. In 2020, 1920, a similar holocaust happened. But y'all don't remember. Human beings don't want to equate it as a learning experience. And not that it is in our hands, it is nothing in our hands. But they are very cool. Elders are very cool about the whole thing, that it's nature's way of elimination.
Mm. Yeah.
Which it doesn't sink in so easily. But
Yeah.
if you really sit back and look, probably there is something beyond what we understand as to why these things happen cyclically.
Yeah. 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 Great. Then thank you. Thanks for sharing. Thank you everyone for listening and being there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.